My name is Jonathan, and I live in an average apartment. There is a main road to my apartment, but there is a shortcut too, which makes it faster to go to one of my friend's next house. However, the weird thing is nobody uses that road. I didn't know until I saw something on that day. One day I went to visit Nick as usual. We played different kinds of games together and we enjoyed the time. The outside had become dark, and when I looked at my cell phone, it was almost 10 p.m. Then my mom called to get back home as soon as possible. It seemed like she got mad, so I packed my stuff quickly. I got out of my friend's house and walked for like 2 minutes. And then I decided to walk through the shortcut lane this time because it was completely dark and gave me a chill. But I was in a rush, so I lighted my phone flash and walked through the road. It was a straight road, and all the trees and bushes were on the both sides. And the next moment became a terrible memory for my entire life. While I was walking alone, my phone's battery suddenly died. Holy crap, I mumbled to myself. But at that moment, I was so freaked out. I made my pace quicker when I heard someone else's footsteps. When I looked up, I saw a figure which was black and invisible. All lamps on that road were broken except two of them. But those two lamps were flickering continuously, and the figure was coming slowly towards me. When a light fell on his face, I could see full of scars on his face. He had a cut in his throat and he was bleeding badly. I tried to ask him if he needed any help, but then he put his hands on the top of his head slowly and he picked it up. I could see his head was dividing from his body, and he was just there holding his head in his one hand and looking at my eyes. I couldn't even move because I was so terrified in that moment. All of a sudden, his head was slapping loudly and I was so scared. I stepped back, but he was coming in the front of me with big strides. This time the two lamps which were flickering above his head went out, and I don't remember anything after that. The next morning when I woke up, I was in hospital. It turned out a person was jogging in form and conscious on the ground. My mother sitting next to me with an anxious look. So I told her my entire experience. When I stopped telling her, she seemed a little surprised, and then she patted my back. She told me that there was a man who was murdered and beheaded by some gang members on that road a few years ago. But the police could never find his head nor the criminals. Since then, lots of people saw the same stuff as me, so they stopped using that road. Even now, whenever I go to my home, I still ignore that frightening road and take another long path. It would always make my heart sink, just thinking about that incident itself.